morning. This is This Normal, brought to you by the Center for Positive Sexuality and Exquisite Restraint Corsets. I'm Emily, your host, and Simone, my other host, is MIA to this evening because she's, well, busy making corsets, so because that's what she does. And she's making corsets for a very special event that our guests tonight will get to tell you about a little bit later on. First of all, I wanted to cover some of the events coming up for the center. This past week, we introduced a new class, Force Fantasy Roleplay, as one of our online classes, and Tim Woodman did the class, and he's in the chat room now.
I sure am, and I sure did.
Yep, and how did you think, what did you think of the class?
I should have brushed my teeth. I think they could smell me.
Well, it was online, so probably not.
Whatever. No, I had a great time. I thought it was an awful lot of fun. Ava, who runs the system, was very sweet and polite and flirted with you behind my back the whole time. I found out later, I guess I did a great job.
Well, that's the way it goes. Which means when you're in those classes, you can pass notes behind the teacher's
back.
Yes,
you can actually pass notes.
You can instant message other people without the teacher knowing.
Just to embarrass people.
University in Pennsylvania got a vending machine that has Plan B emergency contraceptive pills available for $25.
Because you don't need a prescription. You just need somebody to be willing to hand it to you.
You need someone to give it to you. And they were saying that this allows a lot of accessibility because the university is 130 miles away from a major city. So any of the pharmacies near this university don't carry Plan B with them, because again, each owner of a pharmacy can decide whether or not they can carry it, much less give it to customers. And so it's available for students who are 17 and over without a prescription, and all the students at the university are at least 17. So they all have access to this. The vending machine has been there for 2 years, and the student body voted for it to be there. And apparently, no one has given a crap about this for 2 years until recently a religious rights group decided, the FDA has to step in because they're giving out what should be prescription medication through a vending machine, and this shouldn't be easily available, and blah, 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 blah.
But it isn't prescription.
They just said it should be.
It should be, but it isn't.
It doesn't have to be. So here's the sort of the summary of the dilemmas of this vending machine is the idea. Is making Plan B too accessible prevents sexual assault victims from getting the attention they need. I think it would make sexual assault victims much more likely to report something if they thought they could actually get immediate healthcare needs met.
Because I guess they're saying if you just get the Plan B out of the vending machine, you're not going to go report it.
You're not going to go report it. And I don't think that that's necessarily true.
Hard to say.
It's hard to say.
And more it would cut on Lifesaver sales at that vending machine. Or Mr. Goodbar sales.
This is true.
Right.
What are the other...
It might cut into... It'll be
Kit Kat bars.
In the same vending machine,
Duty Fruit.
You can get condoms. You can get diaphragms.
Which would arguably be Plan A.
Which would be Plan A.
Astroglide.
This would be cool.
Jiffy Lube.
They're also saying that making this too accessible can prevent a properly informed conversation with healthcare officials about the risk factors of Plan B, because just any medication comes with certain risk factors depending on your overall health condition. And the side note that Christina wrote on here was, right, like any doctor ever really takes the time to do that. Which is absolutely true. We've actually run across lots of cases in talking to many people that their physicians don't give them the other side or the flip side or the other information that pertains
about any medication.
About any medication,
right.
Much less any method of birth control. I don't know. I don't know that making this available ends up creating a huge health risk. I think making it more readily available prevents some potentially dangerous health risks.
But
if it's been there for 2 years, then they would have numbers that would indicate whether or not sexual assault reporting has gone up or down while it's there
Yeah,
by comparison to before 2 years ago.
exactly.
So they would be able to very easily tell whether that accusation
Mhm.
is true, or they'd be able to tell what the impact of that vending machine has on sexual assault reporting.
Absolutely.
The study is already there, that somebody just has to look up the numbers.
Absolutely.
That would
Absolutely.
require somebody to do rudimentary research, therefore it won't happen.
Right. Yeah. I mean, those numbers are there. It would be fairly easy. And in that regard, it probably wouldn't be that much more difficult to
I don't
figure
think it would
out
be
what
different.
the healthcare impact would be. You know, if you take that range of students who have this available to them, are we now having an increased range of students reporting ill effects?
Again, you could just
You could
look at the numbers,
you
they're
could
already
easily
there.
Look this up. It's all there. So it seems it's an empty argument. It's a silly argument. And I'm not suggesting that there is never any negative side effects to certain contraceptives, because there can be, absolutely. But the documentation's there. Nobody's bothering to look, because that's not interesting. Because you might actually find out that the answer is, you know what,
Something
this
different.
is just fine.
It's not nearly sensationalist enough.
Yeah, it's not sensationalist enough, and you might actually find out that it's doing a good job, and we wouldn't want proof of that. So, this evening we're going to talk about the master-slave relationship and a bunch of other topics. So we have Master George and Slave Bren, who were the 2011 Master-Slave of the Year. So how are you guys?
Doing great.
Good.
Yeah, it's been a very interesting year.
Yeah.
And another interesting one is all lined up and ready to go. So we're looking
Great.
forward to it.
Great. So for those who don't know, I want to back up a little bit.
Sure.
How long have you both been together?
9 years.
9 years. Very nice.
We started our 9th year in December.
Nice.
We met on bondage.com.
Mm-hmm.
She's from Canada, and I posted in a astrology website saying astrology is nonsense, and she read it and what did you friended me or whatever the thing is, and that I was like, oh, who's this?
Uh-huh.
And so the astrology thing went out the window immediately.
I mean, I really wasn't in astrology for any other reason than I was your everyday horoscope reader.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, I'll check to see what they say in there. And then it really wasn't his post as much as it was his picture.
Uh-huh.
It was, wow, he kind of scares me. I like that. So, yeah, that look that's, it makes you really think twice that you're going to do something.
Mm-hmm.
So that caught me, and I thought, he might be able to keep me in my place.
Do I scare you now?
On some days. Not most days.
So for you then, Bren, your identity as a slave,
Mhm.
is that specific to this relationship, or was that an identity that you felt connected to before this?
I totally believed that I was on a path of slavery, but I wasn't sure 100%. I knew that I needed to get some facts and to actually try it and live the experience. But I believe my heart knew all along that it was definitely something along that lines. Maybe confused it a bit with the submissive, but quickly realized it was slavery.
And what about you as a master?
In the early days, it really was more dominant, not as well aware of mastery. I knew it existed, but there was very little information that was at my fingertips for it. We really came into master-slave once our dynamic was rolling and the various ebb and flow of it. We went through a whole period of, am I this, am I that, who is this, who is that, and a lot of questioning, a lot of reading, and a lot of talking to other people in the community. And it was getting into the community deeper that started to solve it, because we would look at other couples and we would say, well, we're not really that way. We're more this way, and there's a bit of this and a bit of that. And then when we discovered the leather lifestyle,
Mhm.
and the criteria that classically, traditionally goes into that, that really resonated with us, and that's why we went down that path. That's where we feel our connection is with one another and with the community in general.
Okay. So then, what's the difference between a submissive and a slave?
Oh, the classic question.
I
The evil.
think
Evil
that
question.
really is an individual question as well. For me, I absolutely have not a submissive bone in my body. I have a very dominant personality. I am actively involved in everything I can find and put my hands on, and I will do it and do it well. And so therefore, a lot of people see that as pretty dominant, and which it is. And so I don't need, I pretty much have decided to surrender my will over to him and have him make those choices in my life. But again, it is just with him. I'm slave to him. That may have not happened with anyone else in this entire world that I've met.
And then for you, what's the difference between a dominant and a master?
I think that the two are more blended on the master dominant side. The line between them is a little more blurred. It's in order to be a master of somebody else, you have to have a fairly dominant personality just by nature.
Mhm.
So those two things sort of come into play together. Mastery is not how I am externally in the world. It is what I am able to do internally with myself.
Mhm.
When I first got into it, everybody talked about being in control of this person and being in control of that person. But I think we've evolved past that terminology. I can only be in control of me. I have no control of anything else in the world, not even her. What I have over her is authority.
Mhm.
And learning how to control myself, mastering myself, gives this type of personality, her, the willingness to feel comfortable with handing over authority to her choices in her life to me. I think it's far more separate in the slave submissive category because she does submit to me. And so you would say, well, isn't that a submissive personality? She's not a submissive
Right.
personality at all. She's plutonium, and I am the nuclear power plant around the plutonium.
Rhonda now.
Right. I am the nuclear power plant over that, and I channel that energy appropriately, and it's a challenge. It's
sort
not
of
easy
got
to
the
do.
nickname Chernobyl now.
Yeah,
or something
she's
like that.
we've sort of
re-nicknamed me from some century dog to a Chernobyl.
But Chernobyl went critical, and she's she doesn't go critical. Well, sometimes she does, but I have thick concrete
you
walls.
can contain that.
This is the 21st century nuclear family.
That's right. True nuclear family.
That's it.
Yeah, so I know this is an ongoing debate out there, and there's probably people who won't agree with it, and so on. It's your mileage may vary scenario. What works for us is we see slaves as powerful, dynamic personalities. We see submissives as equally positive people. It's just that they're not necessarily a dominating personality.
Mhm.
They're a submissive personality, and you can see that in people. You can see that in how they behave, if they're submissive or if they're dominant.
And so, how long has this been, as far as the master-slave dynamic between the two of you, how long has that been the dynamic of your relationship?
Dynamic, what would you say about?
Well, when
Close
we
to 6
first
years?
got together, we knew it was going to be a dom sub, and I always knew I was looking for a master, and that I wanted to be able to call somebody master. But I didn't know there was an entire whole environment that we could get ourselves into. So the first place we landed was in the BDSM lifestyle, and from there we not just got involved in the SM and the behavioral patterns of discipline, but we started to grow as dominant, and I would say slave now.
Mhm.
Then I wasn't quite sure. And then we grew into mastery slavery probably within a year of getting together. we realized we were
Started
not
figuring it out.
BDSM, and we were definitely dom in something. And we play with the different few areas. He's also my daddy.
Mhm.
So, you know, at the time I was saying, "You're my daddy," and he said, "No, I'm your master." And I said, I'm your slave, but I'm your little girl." And he said, "You're my slave." So it was a few it was a power learning experience. So we probably have been in a master slave for 8 of the 9 years.
But a good year and a half or 2 years, I would not allow her to call me master. I felt it was an earned thing. I had to earn it myself before I would let somebody else call me that. So that put it at 3 years before we were starting to actually contract under the auspices of a master-slave relationship. And that's how our documentation actually reads. It reads as master-slave, not dominant-submissive.
So you actually have a written contract between the two
We have a
of you.
number of them, and we have we go every few years. We renegotiate things because our relationships are
change.
dynamic and they
Yeah.
change, and our needs are different. So they change. They don't change drastically, but they get tweaked here and there, and her allowance goes up.
I just got to
She just
$75.
got to
I'm happy.
Is that 50?
Without
For a
having
long
to
time.
ask.
Nice.
So I'm
So-
happy.
I don't have an allowance. So it's pretty good. I'll have to do that.
Yeah, that was a big growing thing. I mean, I was at $15. That means I could go out and shop and purchase things for up to $15 without calling and saying, "Hey, this is over $15, master, may I buy it?" And that doesn't mean I can do it every day or it's every shopping time that I can go. But then it went to 50, and that was, of course, after I got into working, and I didn't work for the first 4 years of our relationship. I was an at-home slave, being I came from Canada, and really got to get into the environment of slavery.
Right.
But after the 4 years, we've been together 9, so 2 years on $50, and now I'm getting 75, and I really wanted 100. I have a negotiation though. I get 3 months of being good on 75, and then I get 100.